that is an offshoot to our basic tourism industry of inviting people to come and enjoy the space in Barbados. I feel that our next stage is taking those skills, those abilities, and be able to do tourism product development for people around the world and earn millions of dollars in consulting, earn millions of dollars by opening doors. Let me explain how you open the doors, Mr. Chair. First of all, if you send a consultant out to advise someone on setting up a hotel, or setting up recreational activities, or setting up restaurants or attractions and so on, it is only obvious that when you are recommending what types of products or what types of services you want to recommend to them to use in order to make their product work, you're going to use what you know. And if you use what you know, chances are you're going to be recommending the products that you've used here in Barbados. You're going to be recommending the businesses that you've engaged, because you want to be able to give certainty to the group that you're consulting with that you can deliver, or this company can deliver, what is necessary in order to make their tourism venture successful. So we can open the doors for certain products that we have here in Barbados. You can open the door for example, our juices at Pine Hill. You can open the door if we can do a revival of furniture manufacturing in Barbados. You will be able to put forward our furniture, our architects. You can put forward our fashion and design. Fashion and design isn't only about clothing, but it's also about furnishings, about curtains and the bedspreads and so on, all the things that you would need in a hotel room. If we play our cards right and engage the African space, we can build out a set of industries here that can give support to tourism product development over in Africa. And that is something I believe that we should look at seriously engaging our professionals to form a tourism product development group to be able to go through the region and in Africa and to earn from our skills. The other area that I had spoken of before, it doesn't hurt to mention it again because I believe passionately in it. I would have shared previously with the Chamber that at the moment, Ghana actually imports 150,000 metric tons of chicken. Now, just recently, there was some talk and a little fake news going around Barbados about our putting roadblocks in the way of our pork producers, that we're going to be insisting on standards, and this is to pave the way for importing pork from outside and things like that. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. What we are sitting and discussing is, look, how can we take poultry and how can we take our pork industry and begin to create an export with it? Setting our sights on providing CARICOM, setting our sights on provisioning cruise ships, setting our sights on Africa with a particular emphasis on Ghana. And therefore, we recognize that Ghana will present for Barbados a major opportunity for us to be able to create large-scale enterprises that will be able to trade in her space and will be able to get into her value chains and so take our businesses on the African wave. I'll be very honest with you, Mr.
Honorable
Chairman.
Member, I regret that the rules allow you only another 2 minutes. I've learned so much from your speech, but if you could condense the rest of it. Beg your pardon? She can speak again. Okay. Yes, Honorable Member, I'm told that you may speak again,
yes,
but that on this occasion, the rules limit you to another 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So, because we recognize the value of Ghana, because Ghana is the place where the door of no return that brought our early ancestors, close to 14 million people, left there and came here, Ghana represents for us a place of return. We want to return to trade. We want to return to build community. We want to return to be able to create those linkages and bonds that were broken so many years ago. And our Prime Minister has sent a very strong signal to Ghana. First, we hosted not only the President, but Prime Minister with an entourage went to Ghana, taking with her the bones of our ancestors, to signal to the entire Ghanaian population that Barbados is here, that Barbados has come to engage trade, that Barbados has come to establish relations. And we're now following that up by ensuring that we open a mission in Ghana and to be able to staff it. And the 3.4 million will allow us to do that in Ghana, establish the mission, and help us to put on the UNCTAD conference, UNCTAD 15, in which we hope to promote the best interests of Barbados and the other small island developing states. I'm obliged to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable member for...
I beg that head part.
The question is that head 32 now stand part. All those members who are in favor?
I'd like to say... Right, I can't speak first. Yes, I want to speak. Oh, right, good.
I see. Tell me what's going on here.
Yeah, if you vote, I can't speak.
I beg your pardon, honorable member. The honorable member for Christchurch West. St. Philip West, I beg your pardon.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I raised ready to give my support to this supplementary. The thing about it is this, and I want to pick up from where the honorable member left off. We've been talking about engagements with the rest of the world for a very long time. And it is interesting that at this particular point in our development that we've recognized that we cannot continue to look to the same sources for our redemption, if one may say so. It is interesting that we are now learning about the land, or the continent rather, that most of us in this room would have come from.
Mother country.
And your maternal or paternal, whichever way you want to look at it, landmass, and we are now reaching out to them. And I'm very happy to see that Barbados has been that territory this side of the world to begin the process. I've always said that the interesting thing about this country is that sometimes we do things and we take them for granted. These steps that we are taking are going to be transformational, not only for the people of Barbados, but this entire hemisphere. And if we are going to be the leaders to reach out, it is important that whatever monies that are necessary be seen as an investment in our future. Not just money that you take up and spend here willy-nilly. Because there will be those who will try to say, and it had started as early as possible once we started these engagements, that this was totally just another one of those things that goes along the wayside and we're wasting money and all the things I've seen them on social media, you see them in the press, and you ask yourself sometimes, like, what are we thinking? What are we thinking? 166 square miles. Just about probably 300,000 people if we put the persons who are not documented. There's no way under the sun that by ourselves we can, one, find full employment for our people. It's impossible. Two, with the small landmass, small populations, the ability even to feed ourselves in the way that we would want to becomes less and less probable as things change. More and more lands go out of farming. I mean, there are a number of things. But it becomes limitless when we look at a place like just the west coast of Africa alone. You're talking 400 million people. Now, we don't have the capacity to support 400 million people, but we don't need to support 400 million people. If we were only able to supply goods and services to 0.5% of that population, it's transformational for all of us on this island. And when the minister spoke about a simple thing like providing chicken, I mean, think about it. If we were able only to provide, let's say, 120 40-foot containers of chicken for one supermarket chain in Ghana. We're not even talking about the rest of the West Coast. We're just talking about Ghana alone. Can you imagine how much that would impact on, one, employment? Because obviously, you're going to need to employ a whole lot of people to fulfill a simple order like that for one chain. And you think about it, you've got a rotation of chickens every 6 weeks. So let's imagine that we were paying guys that you get off the blocks, other young people that just come out of school and looking for employment. And if they were able to produce chickens, and every 6 weeks, we were able to give them $1 per chicken that they produce. And if as a group, 4, 5, 6, 10 of them were producing 10,000 chickens every 6 weeks. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out the impact that that alone would have on our entire country. And this, sir, is what the creative economy is all about. Because oftentimes when we talk about the creative economy, people see it only as music, drama, and the arts. But the creative economy cuts across everything. Agriculture, sport, cultural product, I mean, whatever you can think of, innovation, it cuts across it. And that is why I always contend that this notion of a creative economy is going to be transformational for us. And imagine if we have companies in Barbados who can't fulfill these things by themselves, but they can partner with their neighbors in St. Vincent, in Grenada, in Guyana, in Suriname. The pool becomes wider and wider. And it changes not only the lives of us here, but it impacts on our neighbors in a very positive way, with Barbadian companies leading the way. And so I see this as a step that will not just only transform lives in terms of business, in terms of money, but in terms of how we view each other. Now, I know from my own experience that press, foreign press in particular, and television, have painted for us pictures of Africa that speak only to gloom and doom and despair. Poverty, war, corruption, I can go on and list it. And there is no person in this world who can tell me that I'm wrong, because we've all seen it. The problem is that oftentimes we are afraid to speak about these things. But this is a picture that has been painted for many, many, many years. And that in itself would have been a barrier towards the engagement. Now that we've broken down those barriers, I believe the time has come where we must view ourselves as global players, and not just players with our former colonial masters. The world is ours to explore, and I may use this word, and to exploit. We have been exploited for many years, but it is our turn now to get in on the action. And I always say to people, if you follow the news closely, you will notice that very early last year, a number of leaders from Europe found themselves in Africa discussing business and business opportunities and all sorts of things. And you can see other persons from other parts of the world also doing the same. What does this say to you? That Africa is ripe for business. And when you look at it, who do you think should benefit more than anyone else from all the opportunities that exist? Well, the very people who were taken out of there, not on their own volition, but in the other people's attempt to get their economies going, because the slave trade was about commerce. And so when I hear the conversations that have been going on for many, many years about reparations and all the other things, I often say to people, you know, that's fine, and it's a good conversation, but it's not practical. Not in the form that I hear people talking about. But if you can present opportunities for us to do business, and especially business on the African continent, then, like I said before, it changes the whole dynamic for us. And we are so small. We are so small. We are no threat to the larger countries of the world if we get some of the business. We are no threat to anybody at all. But when you talk about us being able, and I know people say this over and over and over and over and over, to punch above our weight, this presents us with a perfect opportunity to get back to that status of punching above our weight. Services, transfer of knowledge. You spoke about the sugar industry, and I think people need to go back and look at historical documents and understand a little bit more about the role that Barbados played in the development of the sugar industry. We were leaders. Small, tiny nation, but per capita producing more sugar than anybody else. You talk about byproducts of this sugar. Rum. We produce rum. Little known fact that some people don't pay much attention to either. Simple things like ketchup, developed in Barbados, based on the fact that people had to send things back to England and they were spoiling all the time. Farmers had to come up with an inventive way of getting it there, and if by chance or by design, this thing called ketchup was also developed. So it's not that we have not been in the forefront of a lot of things. We have been. And this is just another one that we're going to add on to a rather impressive resume that this country has. And oftentimes we just go along and we don't look at it. So I fully would throw my weight and my support behind this resolution, because I can look into the future and see where the negotiations, the things that are going to be established, the possibilities are for us as a nation to benefit beyond our wildest dreams in being able to get those things started with the monies that we're asking for to do this. And so I just want to take the opportunity to thank the Minister and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for bringing this before us this morning. I think it is very, very important that we get this done as quickly as humanly possible. Like I said, the outcomes should be pretty obvious to everyone once you begin to understand the opportunities that are going to be made available for us. And we see this engagement with Ghana and with the west coast of Africa as just being the first step. There's the east, there's the south, there's the north, there's the entire continent, but you have to start somewhere. And what a better place to start than from the end you came out. And for those of us who understand what it means to take what one may consider a bad situation and turn it into something good, this is the beginning of that. And so, once again, I simply want to state my support for this. And with that, I'm obliged to you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for St. James South.
Yes, I want to thank my colleague for sharing, the Honourable Member for St. Philip West, for sharing on the importance of Ghana and the importance of our engagement with the continent of Africa. This is so important. He and I have spoken about strong collaboration between a number of ministries: culture, commerce, business, foreign trade, agriculture, to look at how we are going to make the most of the Ghanaian connection and how we're going to be able to convert it into the necessary trade. The strategy that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is seeking to adopt in relation to Africa, using Ghana as an entrance point, is one, establish a mission, staff it. Yes, you'll have your ambassador, but you will also have people with commercial leanings who will be working in that mission, because their job is to be able to facilitate the engagement of Barbadian enterprises in the Ghanaian space. Two other areas that we believe will perform well in a place like Ghana would be the issue of culture and the management of festivals. That's another area that they've asked us to engage in, and we'll be discussing that with the Ministry of Culture within the next few months, and how we can use, again, our festivals as an opportunity to promote Barbadian ingenuity, Barbadian design, Barbadian products, and so on, and also Barbadian services. We have quite a few people who deal with event management and putting on shows and so on, and we can definitely engage them in a cluster approach to the entertainment services and the cultural services to put it in the Ghanaian space. One of the things I must, the Bible tells you that you shouldn't envy people and you shouldn't long after things that belong to other people. And I try very much not to do that, but I'll tell you this, Mr. Chair. The African Free Trade Area is something that I long after. The African countries have come together, and the majority of them have formed an African Free Trade Area. And that is a market of well over 1 billion people. And to be a part of that trade arrangement where your goods can enter that space and move through that space without paying taxes, without paying duty, is something that would be so beneficial to Barbados. It is unbelievable. And I long for us to be able to do some negotiation with them to see if we can be a part of that space. However, in initial discussions, Prime Minister and the Honorable Senator Jerome Walcott, who heads up the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have started some discussions in order to start discussions around developing some trade agreements with the countries of Africa. And this is something that we're going to be pushing a lot in this year of 2020, because we believe that if we are able to create that space, that our service providers, our manufacturers can get in there and begin to do business in the African continent. Now, people might ask, will they welcome us in Africa? believe me, we will get a huge welcome, and I want to share why. When I first started speaking, I explained about the fact that Africa recognizes that they have common cause with us, and therefore they've been reaching out to their diaspora. As a matter of fact, Ghana celebrated the year of return. 2019 was their year of return. That's the equivalent to the regathering here in Barbados that we're doing in 2020. They sent out invitations across the world to attract their diaspora to come home. They've actually given citizenship to some of those diaspora persons so that they can reconnect and have a stake in Ghana. And when our Prime Minister went with a group into Ghana, and she took a team, you'll remember, I would have shared earlier, that she took back the bones of the ancestors to Ghana, showing that Elmina, which is the door of no return, can be a place of return, that we are returning to Africa. We left to come to a place of oppression, we came to a place of enslavement, we came to a place of misery. But now, what we're seeking to do now is to reverse that middle passage now and to go back to build relations of mutual respect, of mutual benefit, to reconnect with family. And therefore, we took with us bones that had left Africa all those years before and returned them to their home. And that appealed to me a lot. And I will explain why. Because Joseph, going back to the biblical story, when he was in Egypt, Joseph learned all that he could in Egypt. But Joseph never lost sight of the fact that he was a Jew and that his destiny was with his people, the Jews, and he understood that destiny, and he said, I want to be a part of it, even if it is only my bones going with you from Egypt to that promised land. He knew he would never see or experience it in the flesh, but he so wanted to be a part of it. He said, take my bones with you. And that is what we did. And the symbolism of that was important for the relationship with Ghana, because they want to engage us. I had the privilege as the acting Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade while the regular minister was out to entertain the ambassador, the Ghanaian ambassador to the African Union. He came to Barbados on a conference, and he wanted to have engagement with our Prime Minister, Mia Moore-Motley. And I accompanied him on his official visit. And in talking with him, he said constantly, I feel as though I am home. When I walk around here and I look at the faces, these are faces that we have at home. You all look like us. Barbados looks like where I've come from. Everything is so familiar. How the policemen are dressed, how the town is laid out, the buildings, the things we do. And he was in awe, and all he wanted to do was to walk down Bridgetown. And we sent a security officer and the permanent secretary with him to engage, because he was just taken with the fact that he felt like he was seeing a little Ghana here. And it meant so much to him. And this was the reaction and the response of the Ghanaians when they came into our space. They said, my goodness, this is a piece of us in another place. And therefore, there is a welcoming spirit, especially for Barbadians, because Barbados was the first port of call on the Middle Passage. And therefore, our re-engagement now is going to be at a different level, for a different purpose, but we believe that together, Ghana and Barbados can establish a meaningful relationship that will provide opportunity for this region to be able to grow its economies, to be able to make the economic, political, and social connections that will allow us to do each other much good. And that is why with this particular engagement with Ghana, it is not only the establishment of the mission, it's not only staffing it with people with skills that can help us to build business. We recognize that the social connections between the citizens of Barbados and the citizens of Ghana must occur if we are going to build demand for the Barbadian goods and products. And therefore, our engagement in terms of having exchange visits, our engagement in terms of doing live streaming, which we started to do when we had our Emancipation Day. We made a connection with them, and we were able to celebrate with them. We were at the gymnasium, and they were connecting with us via live streaming on social media. So we want to be able to do a number of things. We would love, for example, to be able to take road tennis into Ghana. We want to be able to take a part of our Crop Over Festival into Ghana. We want to create the opportunities for the peoples of the two areas to come together and to build those connections. And we believe that this will be the fastest, most efficient way to build demand for each other's goods and services. And that will allow us to be able to meaningfully engage Ghana. So I'm sure you can tell, Mr. Chair, that I'm thoroughly excited about our Africa engagement, and therefore I am highly pleased to have had the opportunity to be able to present this resolution. We believe the 3.4 million is going to go far, and we believe that it will give us the start to be able to engage the African continent in a very meaningful way and to build a place, a future for all Barbadians and the prosperity of our nation. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Head 32 to stand part.
The question is that head 32, stand part. Mr. Jones, could you help us here, please? What could you state the number, the sum? There's a sum?
It's a sum of 3.4 million.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. And who seconded? Thank you very much. I don't know, he can tell me just now. I'm waiting on Mr. Jones, if you don't mind. Thank you very much, yes.
Page 34, Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment, in the sum of $12,011,453.
Honorable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to request the supplementary under the Ministry of Finance. Specifically, sir, just to indicate that the sums being requested here reflect.
I was with Honorable Member, could you accommodate us for a bit, please? Thank you very much. 834. 32 or 34? We got to vote. We didn't vote on anything. I beg your pardon, Honorable Member. East Central, just a second, we have to revert to some earlier business. I'm sorry. Head 32. The question is that head 32 now stand part. all those all those persons in favor, please affirm accordingly. And all those persons who oppose it, please do so accordingly. It seems as if the affirmations are unanimous. Thank you very much. We can go back to Ryan now. May I? Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Chair, the sums of money being requested under Head 34, as you are aware, sir, Barbados underwent a comprehensive debt restructuring, and part of the sums here, sir, reflect the costs associated with the legal services that would have been utilized by the government of Barbados, sir, of the firm Cleary, Gottlieb, and Hamilton LLP, with respect to being able to settle, sir, not just the domestic, but also the external debt restructuring that took place. In addition, sir, and I want to indicate that having gone through this exercise, sir, there were questions raised with respect to the length of time that it took with respect to being able to settle it. And I just want to remind, sir, through you, the country that won, we executed, perhaps on the domestic side, sir, in about 4 months, the fastest, perhaps, sovereign debt restructuring in the history of debt restructurings. But for all intents and purposes, sir, the external debt restructuring, which took the better part, sir, of about 15 months, approximately, really, sir, is consistent with respect to how debt restructurings take place. And so therefore the sums of money that is reflected here, sir, in part, and I want to say in part, sir, because the professional services vote under the sub-program 7010, about 50% of those monies, sir, represent the fees that we anticipate will be able to pay the legal advisors with respect to being able to see us safely through that period, with respect to being able to settle, sir, not just the debt restructuring, but certainly, sir, allow the government of Barbados and the people of Barbados to manage its repayment schedule with respect to the debt. Now, sir, I want to use this opportunity to say to Barbadians through you, sir, that something, and it's a very good thing, but something extraordinary, sir, has happened since we launched the external debt restructuring. It was completed, sir, in full in December. We issued the new debt. As you are aware, sir, we also received a credit upgrade in December, sir, from the ratings agency, Standard & Poor's, which reflected, sir, some of the hard work that not just the government of Barbados, but certainly the legal advisors as well as the debt advisors, sir, would have put in. But since the new debt instruments have been issued, sir, typically what would happen is when there's a credit event of this nature, the bonds typically tend to trade pretty low upon reissuing. And something quite extraordinary has happened, sir, where last I checked, sir, our bonds were trading at about 98 cents on the dollar. Typically, sir, you would see a significant reduction as new bonds are issued after a credit event, that people start to sell off, and therefore you will see a lower valuation in the trading of the bonds. Now, sir, one can only speculate about these things, but through our engagement, sir, with the creditors, our continued performance, sir, in being able to create an environment where not just that the credit upgrade was issued, but certainly that the government continues, sir, to work hard to meet the targets under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation. The confidence that the creditors would certainly have has been demonstrated in the fact that there has been the trading of those bonds remain relatively high in the context of what normally will take place, sir, when sovereign debt restructurings take place. And it speaks to, in part, sir, that this government has committed itself to engaging in the widest possible way to create an understanding that confidence, sir, is built on trust, and that the government of Barbados, sir, has set about a program of recovery that would allow us to, in a sense, sir, restore the credibility and the good name of the government of Barbados, not just in domestic circles by simply paying people when they supply goods and services to the government, by repaying, sir, those tax refunds that many thousands of Barbadians were not paid over the last 10 years. And we've done that, sir, and we will continue to do that. But, sir, by creating an environment where the management of our public finances now, sir, as we go in, we are now in the second year of the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, that we continue, sir, to demonstrate that through the way that we do business, the way that we administer the public finances, will lend confidence, sir, into the market. And the truth is, sir, that it is not easy to be able to hold the confidence of persons, and that can only be done, sir, by your actions. And therefore, we have committed ourselves in the best possible way to ensure that, one, we can conclude these matters as quickly as we can, so that whether you're a foreign investor, a domestic investor, a local business person, an individual, ordinary Barbadian, sir, who are just people that just want to come and live in Barbados, that we create in the shortest possible time, sir, the focus that good order, sir, and good management of the public finances will obtain, such that people can plan their affairs. And we believe, sir, fundamentally that this exercise of the debt restructuring, sir, would indicate to persons that the public policy being implemented by certainly this government and any future government, sir, must be consistent, sir, with what we, previous Barbados Labour Party governments have been associated with. We've come to office and found a position, sir, that was completely untenable in the context of the significant deterioration in the quality of economic services in the country, which has led, sir, to a spin-off that has impacted every single Barbadian, every single business, sir, in this country. And as the government certainly has gone about this debt restructuring, we want to further indicate that as we move forward, sir, and I want to take this opportunity through you to say that we too recognize, and I want to reiterate again, sir, recognize that a number of businesses in the country, and certainly in the context of a number of the programs that government would use on lend to government, that we're in the process, sir, of looking to see how best we can create a framework where we can, in a sense, sir, in a cohesive and a coherent, way, see how we can restructure some of the debt that government agencies, for example, like Fund Access or EGFL and the like, sir, that we too must look and see how the government of Barbados can restructure debt that would have been lent to businesses across the country in the context, sir, that the economic environment that they were operating under was so severe, would have been so severe, that we too know, as a responsible government, having restructured the sovereign debt, that we now must see, sir, how we are going to, having achieved stability, determine how we can deliver relief, sir, through the various funding lending agencies of government to businesses, recognizing, sir, that over the last, sir, certainly previous to us taking office, sir, that a number of businesses in this country, sir, were operating in very, very, very harsh conditions, and that, one, the ability of those businesses to continue to not just survive, but to enhance their own investment and to expand, obviously would have been compromised. And so therefore, we are in the process, as I said, sir, of reviewing how we can restructure those government's provision of loans to the private sector. But we can only do so, sir, in an environment where there is stability, which we have achieved, and therefore over the course of the next few weeks, you will likely hear more details on that. But the reality is, sir, that as the government of Barbados has restructured its debt, we too now must ensure that there's in a sense, sir, a purposeful restructuring of government's loans to the private sector, such that we can now create space, sir, for businesses as well as individuals who may be impacted to be able now to bring new investment and to expand opportunities in that space, such that we can get an acceleration of business activity taking place in the economy. And we will be in a position, sir, to bring further information to the Chamber on the specifics of how that program will be rolled out, because we understand very clearly, sir, that in order for there to be new investment domestically, then it means then that we must create the space in order to be able to do that. So I just wanted to indicate, sir, that this is how the government of Barbados intends to provide a further impetus with respect to being able to boost confidence, because as we have been able to settle, in a sense, sir, a framework with respect to how government will pay its debt, then we too want to ensure that, one, individuals or businesses operating in Barbados, sir, that we create an environment for them too, for those persons who are impacted, to be able to repay debt to government in a sustained way, in much the same way as the government of Barbados has said to all of the persons holding government paper, that this is what we will do for you. And therefore, we see that as an important next step, and there will be further details with respect to that, sir, coming to this chamber as the final policy is articulated. But rest assured, sir, and as we have done over the last 19 months, sir, we've come to this chamber, we've articulated, sir, with respect to what is the plan with respect to moving and creating an ethos or an environment, sir, of stability. The public, they have seen, sir, the results of what we have done, and therefore this is now to create a space where at the micro level now, sir, the small business who may have borrowed a few $1,000s from, whether it's Fund Access or Enterprise Growth Fund or any of the other lending agencies, sir, we're going to look at in a very comprehensive way to see what is the level of relief that we can deliver to those businesses on the debt side, cognizant of the fact, sir, that the environment that they were operating in under the last administration was quite a hostile one. As we have also structured, sir, the repayments of goods and services to businesses who supplied and weren't paid under the last administration, that we recognize, sir, that the financial strength of a number of our businesses simply isn't as it should have been. And therefore, this will be one mechanism that we will use, sir, to help give some space where individuals and businesses who would have borrowed monies from government, that we will see where relief can be given in that perspective. And so, sir, this supplementary today, as I said, is in part, the bulk of it really relates to settling the sums of money with respect to the payment for the legal work done on the debt restructuring. But substantively, sir, we are in a position now to move forward with greater certainty And therefore, I want to give the Chamber and the country through you, sir, the assurance that the government will continue, sir, to monitor how we can create more opportunities for business people to get the local economy, sir, in a sense, further jump-started, because the critical path is to ensure that, one, the cash flow, sir, of individuals and businesses, that, sir, can be eased up, so that the environment that we've created with respect to our ability to settle our arrears, but to allow for a lot more businesses now, sir, to become much more compliant with respect to their statutory obligations, because the circumstances that they were operating under in the past, sir, were quite hostile. And so we are confident that with that approach, that domestic business confidence will be enhanced, and therefore we will see over the course of the next few months and certainly the next couple of years an improvement not just in business confidence, but also as well as consumer confidence as a result. Some of the remainder, sir, of the funds relate to the POLTA, the Public Officers Loan program, sir, of some $500,000 with respect to that program, which, as it says, sir, is to provide vehicle loans to parliamentarians and registering officers. In addition, sir, part of these funds would also, as the ministry, we have engaged, sir, a number of advisors with respect to policy formulation. Some of this supplementary, sir, will cover the expenditure for the remainder of the fiscal year. And so, sir, this sum of $12,011,453, sir, is really to support the work of the Ministry of Finance with respect to the overall debt restructuring of the country. And we are now in a position, sir, to be able then to, as I indicated earlier, be able then to articulate and to implement the next phase, which will, it is anticipated, will bring some relief with respect from a debt perspective of government to members of the private sector. And with that, sir, I beg to move that Head 34 stand part.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Perhaps I could just start by saying to you and through you to yours and to all my members of the Chamber, my best wishes for a fulfilling 2020, especially with respect to the duties and the service of the country. Now, the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central did what he is obliged to do and identified what he sees as the successes of the government's performance in the last 18 months or so. Made a reference to ratings upgrade, confidence returning to the investment community with reference to Barbados, stability being achieved, debt restructuring achieved in good time, in some instances in record time. All these things he must do. And I am not on my feet to suggest that any of that claim is unjustified. And perhaps just to take a minute at a time to make this particular comment. We were told that the White Oaks Advisory Group and their engagement cost us about $54 million. I personally don't think that questions have been fully answered to a good level of satisfaction with reference to that particular arrangement. Certainly, I don't think we've even heard clearly why White Oaks in the first place and the process under which they were selected. But that's not my point today. The fact is that cost us about $54 million. Today we're told that we have to settle a legal liability associated with the debt restructuring of $12 million. So that's about $66 million. And I simply stand on my feet to ask if we can anticipate any further liability on the part of the Barbados government with respect to the whole process of debt restructuring to be brought to this honorable chamber.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to remind the chamber that when we came to office in May of 2018, we took on the afternoon of May 25th, sir, a briefing from the officials of the Ministry of Finance, the Central Bank, the National Insurance, and the economic team at that time. And whilst we had, as a party in opposition, been monitoring the circumstances of Barbados, when we took the briefing, sir, and we got the numbers with respect to the true state of the economy, because up until then, what the information that we had was, whilst our estimates were pretty much on par, we got the true state on that afternoon, the day after, on May 25th. And therefore, the execution of the, or let me say execution, the announcement, sir, with respect to the fact that we needed to restructure our debt, that briefing confirmed without a shadow of a doubt, sir, that we had to restructure our debt. At that time, the only consideration, sir, that we had was whether or not to include the external when we took the, I recall very clearly, sir, the Prime Minister asking everyone in the room what was their view with respect to whether we should only do domestic versus external. And therefore, the question, and I'm answering the member for St. Philip's West question in this way so that people understand the context. Sorry, St. Michael West, St. Michael West. My apologies. In this way so that the context is clearly understood. On May 25th, we took the economic briefing. We met with the social partnership on the Monday, sir. But the reality is, the situation at the time, sir, and much of the discussion was centered around whether to include the external side. Because at that time, sir, I want to remind the chamber and the member for St. Michael West as well, that the government of Barbados, as we took office, the foreign reserves at that particular point in time, sir, stood at $400 million. And had we paid the Credit Suisse loan, which was due in June to be paid, sir, under the previous terms and conditions, in June and then in December again, sir, without changing the structure of government, sir, would have created a situation where the government of Barbados and through the central bank would have been pretty difficult to maintain the integrity of the peg. And so therefore, in less than a week, let me put it that because it was, as I said, it was May 25th that we took the economic briefing, sir. We met with the social partnership, and the Prime Minister made the announcement at Sherburne, sir, that we were going to restructure the entire debt of Barbados. So the context around which any notion of why White Oak, in the context of the fact that it was urgent, sir, with respect to being able to respond in terms of being able to acquire the services that are required at that time, sir, to be able to execute. And so therefore, the financial rules, sir, allows the government of Barbados, in a situation where it is urgent, to be able, sir, to go and procure the services that would be required to be able to execute the particular policy that one wants to execute. And therefore, the context, sir, in the very first week of taking office, when you look at the financial situation of Barbados, and then let me remind the chamber, sir, that at that time, the government was pretty much as well within the first 2 months of that fiscal year, was almost exhausted, sir, the Ways and Means at the central bank, which is essentially the government's overdraft facility. So the reality is that the government took decisions with respect to how it's going to make, how it's going to address what was a clear debilitating impact on all of us in Barbados. We sought the best services available, both on the debt advisor side as well as on the legal advisory side, sir, in order to ensure that this process was not protracted. Because the one thing that people require, sir, is some sense of certainty, and we sought the best advisor to be able to do that. And so I just wish to remind the honourable member that as government, we took decisions. Those decisions that we took in that very first week, sir, have all come to demonstrate that we took the best judgment with the information available at the time, sir. And as a result of that, sir, not just the public finances, and the people of Barbados, but there is greater confidence in the management of the public finances in Barbados at the moment. And therefore, sir, within that context, I stand 100%, sir, behind the decisions that we took, because when faced with a situation where the country was barreling over a cliff, sir, we had to pull it back. And in pulling it back, we sought the best possible advice that we can get, and therefore, I fully support the decisions that we made at that time. But having said that, sir, yes, we have restructured the debt. Barbados is not yet out of the hole that we found ourselves in, because there are a number of other reforms still to be done to be able to get ourselves out. Our debt to GDP, sir, is still above 100%. When we left office, the debt to GDP was about 66% at the end of 2007. Our mission, sir, is to restore it to 60% of GDP by 2033. And this government, sir, will continue to implement the policies that are required to be consistent with that. And we know, sir, that once the government maintains a disciplined posture, it creates the confidence for individuals and businesses, sir, to go about their affairs, which will create and open up opportunities for not just Barbadians to participate in, but those who want to come to Barbados, whether from CARICOM or any other part, sir, to come and work, live in Barbados or to vacation in Barbados, sir, that we know that the policies that we have implemented, one of which, sir, was to restructure the debt, was a critical component of delivering that confidence. And so we are in no way, sir, defensive or anything about the decisions that we took, because we know we had to do something about what was clearly, sir, the elephant in Barbados, not in the room. The elephant in Barbados was our debt, the way that the previous government, sir, failed to pay people for goods and services rendered to government. They failed, sir, to pay the national insurance contributions for public servants for the last 3 years of their administration, sir. And they were printing money from the central bank, sir, which put the peg in peril. And therefore, sir, in that context, we took a decision to restructure our debt. We took a decision to engage White Oak because of the urgency of the situation that had to be addressed. And therefore, we sought the best legal advice to support that of the debt advisors, and we were able to bring what clearly, sir, has been perhaps the most sordid management of this country's public finances to closure by the previous administration. And we've settled it, and therefore, going forward, we anticipate, sir, that having settled that, and by bringing our debt to GDP to 60% to 60% by 2033, that unless, sir, the people of Barbados determine that they wish to go in another direction and another government chooses a different path, then we do not anticipate, sir, that there will be any costs associated with debt restructuring, because the path that we have put this country's debt to GDP on, which is down, should not see the need, sir, to re-engage any other debt advisors or legal advisors as it relates to debt, because this government, we've created a path, sir, where we can provide that fiscal sustainability, which will lead to greater debt sustainability. And so, sir, I thank the member for giving me the opportunity to express that, because it is important for the people of Barbados to be reminded that you must be careful, sir, who you vote for. You must be careful of the people that you vote for. You must be careful for the people you vote for, because when we all start on a mission, we in this room, sir, are still committed to the mission that we went to the people to execute. We are executing that mission. As far as I'm aware, all of us in the room are still committed to the mission. So all of us say, sir, is that going forward, so long as the people of Barbados maintain their confidence in the Barbados Labour Party, there will be no need for any further debt restructuring, because our policy, sir, is to restore debt sustainability by 2033. And so long as the people stay with us and we stay with the people, sir, and we stay with the people, not break away and try to do our own thing, sir, we will stay with the people. And once we stay with the people, sir, then there will be no need for further debt restructuring or any associated costs, because our policies, sir, our policies have restored not just the economic fundamentals, sir, but truly, I think, the pride that is synonymous with Barbados, and that Barbados was always seen in the region, sir, as being fiscally responsible. The rest of the region looked up to Barbados, sir, and therefore, that is the path that we have put Barbados on again. And should the people wish to remain on that path, then it will say, sir, that this Barbados Labour Party government will remain committed, sir, to providing the leadership that is required to stay on that path, such that we don't ever have to go back through an exercise like this again. And with that, sir, I beg to move that Head 34 stand part.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one money resolution in Standing Finance Committee.
The chairman of committee has reported the passing of one money resolution in standing finance committee.
Till 10 minutes to 2 p.m. today. 1:50 p.m. For the avoidance of doubt. Suspension until 10:30.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Go past it. Honourable member, believe the resolution has to be passed. Is it agreed already? Yeah, yes. I will already.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be read a first time.
The question is that the resolution be read a first time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, the question is that this resolution be read a first time.
No, first
Sorry, a
time.
second time.
The question is that the resolution be read a second time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be now agreed to.
The question is that the aforementioned resolution be agreed to. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This resolution stands passed. You join the government business. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
I beg to give notice of a resolution to grant the sum of $14,414,834 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2019-2020 as shown in the supplementary estimates number
It's 15
10.
million, honourable member. 15? Or you said 14?
Pardon, sir?
15,414,000?
$15,414,834. Yeah.
You said 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
15,400,000
Right. Right, but this is right. But this was the. I don't remember the. I remember the resolution that I've been given notice of. It speaks to 544,000 The resolution will be 15 minutes. I believe that is the resolution that was just passed, I remember.
That is not what was before me. So I beg to move that the resolution in the sum of $544,000 be granted from the consolidated fund and be placed at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2019-2020 as shown in the supplementary estimates number 11, 2019-2020, which form the schedule to the resolution.
Correct.
Mr. Speaker, I just would want members to be mindful that when we return after lunch, we intend to debate the Integrity in Public Life Bill. We will also be addressing the resolution which has just been given notice of as well. I beg to move that the House be suspended until 2 p.m.
The question is that the aforementioned, that the House be suspended until 2 p.m. in the afternoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands suspended until 2 p.m.